Well, whatever. I wanted to have the recording in progress muted, but I did not. Even with the breakfast ball, we had a little trouble off the first tee. It doesn't matter. I'm GSL. I can handle it. Tim O'Connor's here. He's a coach. He knows what he's doing. Welcome to Swing Thoughts, everybody. Even though I didn't mean... Hello, by the way.
Hello.
Even though we did this whole what golf company snubbed us bit, just as a little bit of fun and, childish, whatever that is, being temperamental. But I can tell you, it has resonated with the STDs. Because whenever I run into somebody that likes the show or has heard us this season, they always say, "Is it this?" And I say, "That's what it was." And then they laugh and then, "How come you won't say it?" I say, "Well, because I'm not giving them the benefit of even speaking their three-letter ridiculous, best clubs. Shut up. That's what I'm.
You know what I equate
Shut
it
up,
with?
I say.
The orange one in the United States wreaking havoc on society down there. I won't say his name as I just demonstrated.
Right.
I don't even want to hear his voice. I don't want to see him. Also, I'll look at what they used to call still pictures, like in newspapers.
Yeah.
But I just, anyways, that's
Well, if you're
infantile and juvenile.
Oh my God.
But I'm okay with it.
Well, if
okay
you
with
want
being
some
a little
alternatives,
boy.
I've got a long list. Try orange shit stain. That's one we use on the Humble and Fred show quite a bit.
I like heard one the other, the ochre one.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, welcome. Hope you're having a great day, great golf season. Here in Toronto, where we record this program, Toronto and in Guelph, but Southern Ontario. What is today? The 4th of June?
4th of June.
Last week, I'm trying to think what day it was, like Saturday. I played Saturday 4 or 5 days ago now, and wearing a base layer, a.k.a. Long Johns.
And you weren't climbing Mount Everest, were you?
Oh, man. And anyway, we'll talk about that round. It was interesting. And but it's finally warmed up. I'm going to be playing today for the first time in shorts in a while. It's gone from. Did you have your furnace on for most of May? Because I did.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's usually when we expect that bill to go down.
Yeah, not this year, folks.
No.
Yeah, we've gone from the furnace. I came home yesterday and I hadn't had the air on, and it was like 76 here in the house. So I put the air on. I'm like, that's so weird. But that's the kind of year it's been. Lots of golf in layers and lots of golf in windy conditions. But to start with, you said something interesting just before we hit record. You said you had videotaped, I believe they call it. You recorded your golf swing. And
Videotaped. How old are we?
No, I know. You took your VCR recorder.
That's right.
And but let's begin there, because I thought it was interesting what you said.
Well, I got a tripod. I think I lost mine somewhat last year, and then I got around to it. I finally went, "Oh, they're only $28." So I got one, and I'm ostensibly I got it to record myself sharing whatever degree of wisdom I have in, little videos like, "Hi, I'm Coach Tim, and I wrote a book, and listen to what I have to say." One of thousands with something to say. But anyways, too windy. So I recorded my swing recorded my swing using my new little tripod, and took some picture of my 8-iron face on, down the line, driver face on. And I'm happy to say I really liked what I mean, we were just doing our pre-show gab fest, and it was just really nice to see that I actually liked what I saw. And so there you go.
Sorry, what was my response?
That you were not surprised
Not
at
surprised.
all.
Zero surprise. I've been telling you that as long as I've known you. I've always thought very highly of your swing. Coach Tim makes a nice grown-up cut at it. And you were saying you really liked the position of your this is the part I want to get to, and this is the jumping off point for this morning's GSL essay. You said you really liked the position of your wrist. Your right wrist was bent. Your left wrist was flat. You looked, and just talk to me a little bit about that. But I mean, you obviously you can't be surprised. You know you have a good golf swing. All the elements are there.
Yeah, thanks. Here's the thing. I think this is why I was talking about this because I'm always talking to my clients about what are you focused on?
Yes.
Usually it's things like shoulders or hips. And and I said, well, okay. To me, it makes zero sense to be focusing on anything but what your hands and the club are doing. So for the last couple of years, I've really focused on just keeping my attention on my hands, just not trying to do anything like turn them over or anything like that, just kind of witnessing them, but especially just feeling them release to the target. And I think I finally got through my own thick skull
Hmm.
because what I noticed on the video is that as I'm coming through impact, you get that nice, that lag starts to release and the club comes down into the ball. And so I'm a right-hander, so my right wrist has a nice little hinge in it, and the left wrist is flat coming through, and it just and the shaft is leaning forward, it's ball first,
Yeah, all that
all
grown up
that
stuff. Yeah.
all that good stuff. And that just it when you see and hear a good golf swing,
Hmm.
it you can tell. And so
Yeah.
much of it is just kind of what I talked about. It so it sounds self-aggrandizing,
Well,
but
no, but it
it's
is it
really
is.
about but that's if I just tell people that if you're not aware of what your hands and therefore the club face are doing, you're you got your attention in the wrong place.
Yeah, I would agree to most of that. I mean, the reason I thought I wanted you to retell that is because what I had planned to talk about with you today and our friends, the serious golf nerds that listen to this show, and they're out there. I mean, I've been running into a lot. I've been running into a lot lately. But I've been out in a lot of golf tournaments. I've played a lot of events. Even though it's the 4th of June, I've played somewhere around 10 or 12 tournament rounds of significance. It's not significance, but rounds where, you have to hand in a card and everyone knows you shot
Yeah.
90. And so, but I have spent a lot of time. We had my friend Nick from Orlando on the show talking about the work I'd kind of done with the group, the Stack and Tilt people. And
Yeah.
and I was kind of like, I think that's the reason I think it's of interest, baby. I think for someone like you and I, that how quickly we can get caught up in the mechanics of the game. You just described some mechanical stuff that you see in your golf swing, and I agree with you. Your golf swing is very efficient, and it does all those things: ball first contact, low point forward, etc. Right? All the Instagram, YouTube golf stuff. And what I was going to say is I found myself because I've been working on my game. Not really. I found working on my swing a lot that I started to become what's the word I'm looking for? Influenced by that. Overdoing those mechanics without even
Fo-
realizing I was doing it.
Focusing too much
Thank you.
on mechanics and
Thank
body
you.
parts and
Thank you.
technique. Yeah.
Grandpa's been talking since 6 a.m. So yeah, I was overwrought, but over influenced by all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I
Happens.
wasn't hitting the ball like I would have bouts of good ball striking this winter and this spring when we got out to play, but I was just kind of frustrated. And I'm about it'll be 2 weeks ago tomorrow is when I was playing with our friend Ken Osborne. By the way, have you noticed that? Have you noticed that KO has become the new Fred Shoemaker on the show? Like seriously, if you were to do a drinking game. If
It's
you were to have
exactly.
if you were to have a shot every time I mention or Tim mentions Kent for some reason, I'm actually playing with him tomorrow, so I'll tell him this.
Great. I just quickly.
Yeah,
I think
go.
we need to come
Listen,
up.
let's
I
go,
need
go. Jump in. Jump in.
we need a name for him. I want to call him. I think an appropriate name that I'll nominate is the Oracle. Would that
Sure.
be a good one?
Sure. I mean, I have so many others for him, but sure, we can call
Well,
him the Oracle.
let's hear them quickly.
I
So
don't
you
want to
got
get bogged
KO.
down. I've KO. He calls himself Scratch Attitude, or I call him the KO Show because he'll hit
Yeah,
these
yeah.
shots anyway. But the Oracle anyway. So Kent aside, I played 2 weeks ago tomorrow. I played a qualifier with him where he shot 1 million and I shot just under 1 million. And I was kind of like, I wasn't really feeling bad about how I hit the ball that day. Pardon me, but I was kind of feeling a little bit, like you do from time to time in this game, Timmy. Like I'm feeling a little bit lost about here I spent all this time,
Yep.
working on my mechanics as
Oh,
you
I've heard this
described them.
story. I've heard this
No,
lament
no,
a
no.
few
This isn't
times.
golf hell. This is just golf. I wasn't in golf hell. I was kind of like, just kind of in like, and I'd had this conversation with him a few times.
Limbo, purgatory.
No, not really. Not at all, actually. I know it'd be funnier if it was, but I just got to be honest with you. I wasn't. I just was lamenting in a couple of conversations that like I just wasn't. Part of it was the weather. And the weather has been so shitty, and we're older guys, and we need a little bit of lubrication in our body, and whether you're inflammation and all that stuff. So I think a lot of people. Well, I can tell you, just put a pin in this for a second. Almost everybody I've spoken to, universally's handicap is up this spring. Been a lot of high scores because we're all playing in really hard, shitty, uncomfortable conditions. So no, I wasn't in any kind of purgatory, but I was kind of thinking, here I've gone and spent all this time trying to help, figure out my motion again. And so 2 weeks ago, the Friday after I shoot 90, I'm having a conversation. You want to talk about the Oracle with with my friend Paul Henrik, who is, he's been on this show, and it was a long time ago, but he's been teaching me off and on for a long time, but also, more importantly, he's a friend of mine, and he knows my game. And I had this conversation with him on the Friday morning after I'd shot 90. And I was just saying, I don't know, Pro, can you come out and have a look at me? Just have a look, see what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And he says, I don't really have to look at you. I know what you're doing. And then we went on to say what we're saying now, which is you get so focused on is your right hand bent and your left, all that stuff. And that's why I said I don't totally agree with what you said. Because for me and for a lot of golfers, whatever I'm focusing on that's not, well, as Paul said, you can hit any shot. He said, you just don't. And I said, what do you mean, Pro? He says, well, I could go to the range with you and you would hit, and it's true. He said, you've got great hands. You're a strong guy. You're a really upper body swinger, like your lower body isn't, I don't post up as much as some people do and all that other shit. But he said, you got great hands. And he said, I've been with you on the range. You go out there and say, I want to hit a draw, or I'm going to hit a cut, or I'm going to hit a low punch shot, or a high one, etc. He said, just go out and just do that for a round and see what it feels like.
Exactly.
So I did, and I had 2 or 3 rounds in a row where I want you to jump in whenever you feel like it, because we talk a lot about trust on this show and trusting our swing and trusting ourselves. But you know what? It's a hard thing to do because I want you to comment on this. I think it's harder to trust ourselves because we think we need to have a set of swing mechanics to focus on, or how will we hit a golf ball?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, here's where I go with that is that this is why I have trouble with a lot of the golf psychology speak around. You have to practice acceptance. You have to trust, all that kind of stuff. You do, but that's still a cognitive activity. You're thinking about it. Oh, I have to trust my swing. So if you're thinking trust, I think, no, I'm convinced that your attention is in the wrong place. So when you're trying to hit a draw to what I'm trying to hit a draw, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I just get over it, becomes, okay, my body points to the right a bit, my club face closes down, I'm aiming to the right of it, and I just kind of expect, and I have this feeling that happens that sends the ball to the right and it curves back left. And the same with if I want to hit it low. It's just, to me, it's a physical act of getting over the ball, and just some things happen.
Yeah, okay, but I would submit to you.
Submit.
I will submit to you that you can, because I'm going to say that I'm as guilty. I'm submitting to you now, as I thought a lot about this in the last 2 weeks, that you say that. I say it. I would say it all the time. Well, I'm going to aim at that tree and hit a draw, but not really do it. Not really do it, because I would say I'm going to do that and then still think I need to make this stack and tilt swing, or I need to make this
Yes,
thing.
exactly.
I would still, because I would say it out loud. And this is what got me, is I've been saying it out loud for years. Oh, I'm going to hit a soft draw off that bunker. But then I'd get over the ball and still be thinking about some physical swing trigger. So I
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
okay, I'm going to experiment, because when I go to the range, as I have now the last 2 weeks, to work on my block practice, this is a crazy thing. I said this to Paul. I would go and work really hard, be a good little boy and work as hard as I could on the latest thing that I was working on in my swing, hoping it would give me anti-fragility and I'd be bulletproof and consistency, all the things we all want.
On and on.
And then here's the craziest part I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
I would go and work on my mechanics, and then at the end of my session, as a reward, I would just sit there for 10 or 15 minutes, curving the ball any way I wanted to.
That's right.
And and it was so weird. I said to Paul, I use that as kind of like a little candy at the end of, the dessert after the dinner you really didn't want to eat. And yet it's ass backwards, because
Totally, man. Totally.
but I'm not alone in this. I
course
can't
you're
be,
not.
because everybody does that. I mean, yes, I'm a little bit more advanced. I have the ability to make the ball do whatever I want to do on the range. So he said, why don't you try to do that when you go play next time? I thought, well, why not?
Exactly.
And where trust comes from is practicing on the range the shots you think you're going to need on the golf course. I know I've read that, and everyone's, excuse me, heard that, but I've never, ever actually played a lot of golf, actually making myself do that. To whatever greater or lesser degree, I've spent the last 2 weeks now experimenting with that. Now, you know that there's a happy ending to part of this story, because I go from shooting 90 one Thursday, and then I talked to him on the Friday. I play Saturday, Sunday. I had a tournament. I played a big time Fancy Pants Invitational. I played a big invitational at Islington, top golf course, crazy fast greens. Had a very, very, very good event. Finished in the top 8 or 9 guys out of 100 plus, really good golfers.
That's
Shot a
excellent.
good score. Had one little hiccup, but I played really well. I think I talked about it. And I kept trying this experiment. What if I got over the ball and said I'm going to hit a low cut, and actually tried to do it? Now, it doesn't always come off, but it's given me some freedom that I wasn't feeling before. Not that I've never felt before, but I was not feeling this late winter, spring, whatever this is now. I was getting a little bit kind of frustrated, because how am I going to break this habit of only thinking about what my golf swing is doing? Are you with me so far?
I'm with you the whole way. And you are just expressing what I would say thousands and thousands, maybe not millions, but thousands of golfers go through, is trying to do the right thing and thinking their way through the golf swing.
Yes.
And the core word is thinking.
Yes.
And when you're doing anything, like when you do stand-up comedy, dude, yeah, you have, I remember John King, was it? Dang it, it's one of your stand-up buddies came on and he said that he can feel sort of a joke load into his forehead. We can feel what's going on or coming up, but when you're doing your thing on stage,
Well, John Wing. I'm sorry. Yes, it was
John
John Wing.
Wing, that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just you're just doing it. You're not thinking about how you're going to punch one line, you're going to knit an eyebrow or frown or whatever. You're just doing it. And that's when you're at your best as a stand-up comedian. That's when you're at best as a broadcaster. You're just doing it. You're not thinking about it. So I'll revert back. So here's our real Fred Shoemaker comment for today. He says that what most golfers do when they're practicing their golf or playing it, he says what they're doing is they're practicing hope and fear.
Yes.
They're hoping that whatever they're working on is going to fix their problems. And the fear part is that it won't fix it, and that whatever calamity is befalling them, chunks, slices, over the tops, that will persist forever. But
Yeah.
dear God, or whatever deity you you worship in golf, you hope that this will work.
I love
And
that. Hope
that
and fear is exactly how most of us play.
Yeah, and that's not a recipe for anything good to happen. Golf, business, whatever. So so the thing that I talk about, so rather than think I need to trust my swing, to me it's more of a just of a doing. I have the golf club, and I focus on what I'm doing. And it's a to me it's a physical experience more than anything.
Yeah, and
And
I'm sorry, because I
go
want to
ahead.
go back and forth with you. I mean, yeah, when I say like I can't, there's so much in there. Like, yeah, when most of us go to the golf course, we're just hoping that whatever we're working on lasts long enough for us to get around the golf course, and we're always in fear that it's not
Mhm.
going to, etc. When I'm talking about actually trusting the fact that like I said, and I'm not saying this braggadociously, there's really not a shot in golf that I don't know how to hit.
I
Yet,
totally get that.
yet, when I play, I don't hit most of them. Here's a great, I've written down a couple things that I think are going to resonate with you and others. Okay, here's the situation. You've driven it poorly, you're in some trouble, not chip out trouble, not directly 90-degree chip out trouble, but you're in a bit of trouble, and there's a corridor where you could, get something on a club. It's not super risky, but you've got to hit a bit of a shot where you have to kind of hit a punch shot. The shot's a bit of a punch shot of round with a little bit of curve on it so you don't go in the bunker. That's the situation. I know for myself, when I'm in those situations, sometimes it's the best contact that I'll produce all fucking day on the golf ball.
Ex-
Because
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
I have no choice but to think about what is necessary
That's
for
right.
me to do with this golf ball. Now I could tell you mechanically how I do it, but in the moment, I'm not thinking about how do I hit a punch 6-iron through this corridor, short of that bunker, and get it curved to the left. I just do it. To your point,
Exactly. Yeah.
I just give my brain the information, and the reason that got me so excited is because whenever I command myself to do that on the range, it's the contact. It's all the things, and I specifically have not videotaped my swing in a couple weeks because I don't want to know what it looks like. Because I
That's
can
right.
tell you what it feels like to me now is that all I'm doing is hitting shots like that. And now it's not all perfect, but I will tell you the stress or the anxiety or whatever, the fear, the idea that I'm gonna not have my stuff that day is been so much reduced. Even playing tournament golf, I played another fancy pants tournament on Monday at Cherry Hill. Now I didn't have a great score, but the golf course was crazy, crazy hard, and I was just a little bit off a few times on pretty good shots. So my score wasn't, what I wanted it to be, but I continued trying to do this on every swing, basically for the last 2 weeks. I'm going to pause now because I see my dear friend is writing something down. I want to hear what it is.
Well, I
What do
love
you
where you
say
go
about
with
all
that.
that?
Well, if that is like a universal experience that golfers, I would say intermediate to expert, have all shared in. They're hitting the ball well, and then they block one in the trees, and they know they've got to hit it between two big frickin' oak trunks 6 feet apart. Oh, I got to keep it under this branch.
Yeah.
I got to curve it there, let it land, say 50 yards short, and run up. And just as you described, it's often the very best shot of the day. I mean, remember
The
Phil
best
Mick?
contact, the best
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
compression of the day.
Absolutely. Well, remember Mickelson at Augusta when he hit it off the pine straw on
Yeah.
13 there.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, what's he doing? Well, you put Phil Mickelson, in the middle of a fairway, 50 yards, he's likely going to miss the green if you
That's right.
get up and down or chip in. But you put him in some situation, and I don't even like Phil, but you put him in some situation like that, and he's going to hit a magnificent shot. So I think what's happening is, in essence, what we do is reverse engineer the shot. So we see what's going on out there in the world. We
Yes.
want the ball to end up here. What's going on in the environment? What's here? Oh, there's some trees, there's a branch, there's a pond over there. And what happens is that you're responding to this external environment, and your brain is really good at that. Your brain is amazing at self-organizing and responding. So instead of being driven as you normally do by your thinking, your internal experience, and this is what I got to do and think through. Instead, you're responding to the environment. And if you got some chops as a player, you've got some experience, you will respond to that and and usually you'll have some pretty good impact because as our friend I forget, our Irish buddy said, your body self-organizes and it responds
We're so
in
funny. We've been doing this show so long, we can't remember anyone's name who's been on it. It was John Wing, Ed Coughlin, Ed
Ed
Coughlin,
Coughlin.
who I
Yeah,
always
that's
get his
right.
name wrong. Yeah, and by the way, this is I know somebody listening might go, yeah, okay, well, that's great for you, but because you can hit those shots. I'm telling you, I've tried
Everyone
everything.
can. Everyone
Everybody,
can.
that's why I said put yourself in that situation that we both just described. And very often, when you have to do something that's not, what am I working on today? And no one is more guilty of that than me. Just really briefly, another friend of ours, Mark Evershed, told me a story a couple of years ago about a pro he was working with. And I've played with this pro. Can't remember his name, doesn't matter. But a very fine young player. Very fine young player. And one of the things that Mark got this fine young player to do for most of the summer working on his game was to hit a lot of shots. There was a tree out at the range that they used to work together at, and he would have this kid go over and just hit low punch long irons underneath this tree for their session. Because I'm telling you, the contact you have when you have to pitch out or chip out or hit a longer shot out is very often the best. So there I was a couple weeks ago, kind of like thinking, waiting for my game to kind of show up, and it wasn't. And so I shot, and this also goes to the other subheading on this show, all scores are possible. So I shoot 90 2 weeks ago. I shoot 90 in a tournament. Then I play in our Saturday game, which is kind of like a tournament because there's no gimmies and you have to hand your card in. It's whatever. I shot 77. Then I played in a Canadian seniors event, shot 77 again. Again, not great scores for me, but feeling better about where the ball was going. Mm-hmm. And then I played with a couple of really good players. I joined them for 9 holes, shot even par, but very easy even par, like a couple bogeys, a couple birdies. And Paul kept saying, he said, just just keep this up. I promise you, he said, the scores are going to start to drop. And then I played a men's night, similar scores, 77, 78. And then I played a round with a couple of fellas and my girlfriend. And I was very much involved in her game and the experience. Everyone's enjoying themselves. And I played from a combination of whites and silvers, so pretty short for me, 6,000, 6,100 yards, and shot 69. One week to the day that I shot 90, I shoot 69. And I'm going to just pause that for a second and tell you that on the last hole, STDs, you're going to laugh at this, but I knew where I was. It's hard not to know.
Of course you do. Jeez,
I knew I was under par. I knew I knew I made 5 birdies on the day and maybe 1 bogey. I couldn't really remember. I knew I was way, way under par. And even though it was a fun round on a Thursday with 2 guys who had no idea what they were getting into, they were people from other courses. And they just joined up with us. But after a couple holes, they knew they were playing with something different because they were like, they're fucking never going to miss a shot. Because I was really on.
No, I totally get it.
I'm in the middle of the fairway on a par 5 that I could reach into. I'm 205 to the green. And here's what I thought. I was waiting for my turn to hit, and I thought, okay, I'm going to hit it to the left and make sure I I'm going to hit it left. If it gets on the green, great, but I have an easy chip, and then I go 4 for 67, 5 for 68. And of course, I make 6 for 69 because I was no longer thinking about where to hit it. I was thinking about where not. All the things that I said, bullshit. And I said to myself after, don't you know better than that? Aren't you golf spiritual leader? So I shoot 69. Then I play last Saturday in our Saturday game where it is wretched. Gusty winds, cold winds. I'm in 3 layers and shoot 73 with another 5 birdies on the round.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I had a tournament 2 days ago where I shot 84, but I'm telling you, I golfed my ball. It was a very tough golf course. Lots of scores in the high 80s. And lots of shots that I hit that just were on the wrong. I 4-putted once and 3-putted 4 times. It was a really tough day. But I was I hit good shots, just in the wrong spots. So all I'm trying to say is I have spent now 2 weeks just practicing hitting shots, creating shots on the range. And when I warm up, all I'm doing is hitting some kind of, as opposed to just standing there working on my mechanics and my stack and tilt, whatever, which is great. Yep. I've just spent more time practicing where I want the ball to go and how do I move my body. And I'll tell you one thing, it's a lot. Yes, it's fun shooting in the 60s. By the way, it's only the first time I broke in 70 in a couple years. I just thought at some point, well, maybe I'll just never do it again. I did.
Yeah, that's great.
Thought,
well, congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. Wow, we could really keep going on this one for a while. Some of the best players in the world, players that you watch on the weekend on TV, not a lot of them now, but a lot of that you watch through the years, like a I don't know, like a Lee Trevino or a Chichi Rodriguez. They didn't go out to driving ranges and hit buckets of balls. They just played a ton of golf. And you think about if you've been fortunate enough to go to the UK, where Scotland, Ireland, and England, you go to, like, we're not talking like the big high end now courses in those countries, but you just go to an average 18-hole course. There ain't no range.
Yeah.
You just go, you get your cars out of the boot, your clubs out of the boot, as they call them. You might hit a few putts or something, and then you go. No one is working on their swings there. I mean, that's a very broad general statement. So what I mean to say is, I would say the overwhelming majority of golfers in those environments, they're hitting shots.
Yeah.
They're just responding to the golf course. So another friend of ours, Carl Morris, I didn't really get what he meant when he said this, but I think I finally got some degree of clarity around it. He said, what questions is the golf course asking you? And to me, I didn't really get that. And I think I finally got my head around that. What he means is that when I look out at what the golf course is doing and what the wind is doing, and say where the hazards are, and the questions basically, where do I want my ball to go? And certainly, where do I not want it to go? So again, if we come back to that concept of reverse engineering, it is where do I want my ball to end up? And then we bring it back, and we're all relating to external things. Mm-hmm. So that's about hitting a shot, responding to what the environment presents us, which is completely different than thinking about, I got to post up on my lead leg and keep my right wrist hinged.
Yeah, I'll tell you quickly. One of the things that Henrik says that is such a great thing is the shot creates the swing.
Exactly.
It's like what Mo said. Mo Norman famously said, "My swing balances me." Here's another one.
Here, I'll just jump in real quick.
Yeah, when you hit that, I like it.
No, when you hit that shot, out of the shit, and trying to bend it around and hit it low, that's exactly what's happening. The shot creates the swing.
The shot creates the swing, and I can tell you, I've had so many of those feelings in the last 2 weeks. Listen, I've had bouts of good ball striking, but as I told you at the beginning of today's theme, I was just lying basically to myself. I'd say it. It's because I know in my heart, I really was, here's what it would be like. I'd say, okay, soft draw off that bunker, and then take a practice swing, but I'm practice swinging my whatever method I'm
Yeah.
whatever little thing I'm working on. So that's I'm not practicing the shot I need. And then I would get up there and hope that the swing I'm making will somehow magically create that shot. Because I can tell you the truth of it is when you actually try and draw something, that's where your focus is. Now, again, I could go through all the checklists of, as you did, how to draw a ball. But in my body, I know if I think low draw off that bunker, I am now trying to do that. Doesn't always come off. But when it does, I don't know what my backswing's doing. I can't describe what my right wrist is feeling, but I just know when I look up and it turns out, here's the great news as another Paul Henrik thing, the straight shot's the miss. So if you're
Yes,
trying to hit
exactly.
it down,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I even though I shot 84 in this tournament Monday, I hit so many good shots. I had a 5-iron. One of the guys I was playing with didn't even see it, but I pull hooked. Yeah, I pull hooked a bunch of shots on Monday because I know now when I'm nervous or tense, I don't let myself. I'm not as creative. Anyway, I pull hooked a shot. I had 185 to the green, and I choked down on a 5-iron. It was the course was really fast. Fast fairways, fast greens.
Nice.
And I hit this punch 5-iron around the tree. It landed 30 yards short of the green and bounced up just to the front of the green. Now, the guys were looking for their ball on the right-hand side, but I know that shot was like 10 out of 10.
Exactly. And it's so satisfying.
So satisfying.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
no part of that swing had anything to do with any method or anything I was thinking internally. And as you've said so correctly, it was all given external stimuli.
Yeah, you just responded to it. And so a couple things is one is you talked about, say, a practice swing. So a lot of times when I'll record a golfer swing from the we call it down the line, and they fake me out. So I turn on my camera video, and they'll take a practice swing. And here's what I notice is that when most people take a practice swing, when that club goes through what would be the impact area, it's wide open. If they hit a ball with a practice swing, the thing would be going 45 degrees to the right. Why? Because because they're responding to some fantasy thing in their head, and they're not really swinging. They're not. There's no commitment to coming through the ball to a target. So that's the one thing of why practice swings are a lot of times useless. They're good if you're helpful if, let's say, in rough, got a short game shot, whatever. But here's the thing that I wanted to come back to is that it's about how like when you throw a ball. Okay, I know where I was going with this. I lost my train of thought. I had a new student come, and I've worked with him 4 times uh, like weekly, and he came to me. He immediately wanted to help solve his driver, so we jumped in to try and help what's going on with his driver, and then he was not hitting his partial wedges very solidly, and like so I got dragged into fix-it mode to try and if you do this with your hands, to do this and this and this, and it wasn't helping at all. And so and what happened was we kind of bypassed some of Coach Tim's stuff. And one of the things I always do with pretty well every new student is have a game of catch.
I know.
They stand in one spot. I kind of walk around like sort of like a wide receiver in football and lead me, hit it, throw it to me high, throw it to me low, all this, and they get it to me every time. And I come back to this, how'd you do that? And they say, what do you mean? I said, you threw it to me perfectly every time. And I said, what were you thinking about? Well, nothing. I just threw it to where you were. So I was the target, right? Yes. And so anyways, my whole reason for telling that story is we're just responding to the environment, and our body knows how to do that. But yet in this golf culture, we don't trust ourselves, and we have so much innate brilliance baked into us as the product of being human beings, but we don't trust it. And that is, to me, a mortal sin.
Well, we don't trust it because we think, and
We're not good enough.
Well, no, we think that if we don't think about how to swing a golf club, that we won't be able to hit the ball. Yet, as you've just described, and you've told that exercise many times, and all of us do these complicated mechanical things like walking and throwing a ball without ever thinking about, is our left elbow externally or is our shoulder externally rotated or not. What I want to say, though, see, and I've had this epiphany about practice swings. The practice swing, as I said to Henrik one day, I said, oh, I just get it. The practice swing is practicing the swing for the shot you're about to make. That's what you're practicing. You're practicing if you want to hit a cut off that, left side of the whatever, you're practicing the swing that produces the cut. So I'll rehearse that feeling of holding whatever I need to do to hit a low punch cut. I'm not practicing my mechanical, arm left or whatever. I'm making a practice swing for the shot that I'm about to create. That's what a practice swing. That's what when you watch guys. No, go ahead.
I get that.
I see you got a skeptic. Yeah, but
yeah.
I override your skepticism. Here's
I got
why.
the squinty. I got my squinty look going.
Here's why. What else are you swinging for? You're not. When you watch Scotty Scheffler, and I've got a great clip to end here. You watch Scheffler or any good player about to create a shot. They're making the shot. You'll see them make a practice swing, rehearsing whatever shot that they're going to make. They're not making practice swings to remind themselves how to swing a golf club, which is 99% of us.
Right.
If we're making a practice swing at all, we're practicing the thing we were working on the range, hoping it shows up. Why the squinting? I defy you. How dare you squint at me?
Well, I'm glad we have a trusting relationship where I can squint and you still talk to me.
You got me all fired up now. Why were you squinting? What is it about that doesn't resonate with you?
Well, I still think to some degree it is taking something that is physical and that we don't need to think about and making it something that we're thinking about. And then someone's doing something with a drill and it's annoying. So I'm closing my window. That's what I just.
All right, that's fine.
So, okay. So what I'll take it to.
We can't hear it though, so don't worry about it.
Okay. So what I'll take it to is putting. And one of the best things I ever did for my own game, this is about 7 or 8 years ago. I stopped practice putting. I just got up over the ball and, I did my read, got up and then hit it. And lots of players do it. Rory McIlroy, I think, is a no practice.
Yeah, same with me. I don't take a practice swing when I putt.
So to me, that's it's similar. It's responding to the environment.
Different analogy.
I thought so. You are squinting because that was a major squint because I thought
giving you squint back
because I thought you're like did the screen freeze?
No, listen to me.
Am I talking and nothing's
practice
going
putting?
on?
I'm the same. I whenever unless I've got some collar of the green or I'm trying to see if the putter's going to hit the grass behind the ball, I don't take a practice stroke putting either. But what I'm talking about is rehearsing the shot, creating a shot.
I hear you. I'll grant you that.
I don't want to get bogged down in this because it's
too
good.
I'll take back the squint.
Take this squint. Here's the thing. What's his name? Scotty Scheffler. Here's a great. We're going to wrap up soon.
He's pretty
good. Yeah, he's pretty good at golf. Here is the important because this all kind of as it does on every show. It all comes down to how much in the present, how present can you be in a round of golf, and where does that come from?
Exactly.
And here's Scotty Scheffler answering the question about the importance of staying in the present. Shall we?
Scotty, you've talked a lot about the importance of staying in the present, which can be hard for a lot of people, but where does that importance for you, the focus on that, come from? And is there anyone or anything throughout your life that has helped you get better at staying in the present?
Well, my college coach, Coach Fields, was kind of the first person that introduced that concept to me. I was when I first got to college, I was trying to date this girl whose name was Meredith, and I would come out to the course, and if she shot me a text or gave me a phone call, I'd pick it up, and I was I was still trying to woo her at that point. And, I'd get a little distracted when it came to practicing. And, coach sat me down one day and said, "Hey, listen, when you're at the golf course, you need to be focused on what you're doing at the golf course." He's like, when you're in class, you need to be paying attention in class. And he's like, when you get to do your social stuff, you need to be present where you are. And it's just, I think it's a better way to try to enjoy life. I mean, if I can be present where I am, like if I'm at home thinking about golf, am I going to be fully enjoying the time I get to spend with Meredith and Bennett? Probably not. And if I'm at the golf course thinking about being at home, I'm probably not going to be focused in my practice. I'm not going to get the most out of it. And so I think it's a daily battle to try and focus on the task at hand. And, I think it's a bit of a, kind of, living life to the fullest type of thing. I think when you're thinking about what you're doing, I think that's when you're living.
There you go. That's why he's
Yep.
so. That's why he's so good for a million reasons. I know that faith is a large part of his success. He always talks about how he's got that covered, so everything else is just sort of beside the point, and good for him. I have no problem with that. But it also goes to how strong his mind is, no matter what's happening. No matter whether he's got a 5-shot lead or he's one behind, he just plots. He is, I say this respect, one of the most boring golfers you ever watched. But you know who he reminds me of is Tiger. Because Tiger had, Tiger had some flashy moments, but the bulk of Tiger Woods' rounds of golf were pretty pedestrian, pretty commercial.
That's right. Yeah, he
Found
shot,
it,
yeah, rarely did Tiger shoot 62, 63 to come back. He would just 68 and 69 everyone to death.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. He rarely had like the 61s and 62s, but he also rarely had the 71s and 72s. Even when he was playing poorly, he found a way. And I think that's what we get from Scotty Scheffler.
And so yeah, I just want to respond to that. Like,
Respond away, my squinty-eyed friend.
I'm naturally squinty. I've often said that my eyes look like the slots where you put the coin in a Coke machine.
You have resting, doubting Thomas face.
That's beautiful. There's a great, the phrase that came to me is like, you want your feet underneath you. Basically, you want to be where your feet are. And that to me is the same thing as what we're talking about when you're hitting a shot from the fairway or out of the woods, is that when you're present to what's happening, you can respond sometimes brilliantly, sometimes maybe below average, but most of the time you're going to be okay if you're just taking care of business where you are. And I've often said in workshops that I do that if you're in your kitchen and your spouse, your partner, your beloved is talking to you and you're thinking about the email you didn't send, that's way more dangerous than a downhill 3-foot sliding putt.
That's right.
Way more dangerous. So what it is, Scotty's just talking about awareness. Is it where am I paying attention? Where's my mind right now? And if I'm at home, that's where I want my mind to be. If I'm on the golf course, that's where I want my mind to be. And it's the same when we drill it down to hitting a golf shot. It's just paying attention to what's going on, not thinking. To me, it's more like witnessing, observing, just being in the moment of doing this thing. And most of the time it works out fine.
Yeah.
I remember I've told this story often too. Again, I've used you as an example. Like in the early days of this podcast, you kind of created this Coach's Corner segment, and for most of the podcast, we've been chatting away like two guys, at a bar or something. And then you go, "Hey, Coach Tim, if a player gets in this situation, what do they have to do?" And I would just kind of go, ugh. And I'd just get all tense. I'd stammer out something that I hope would make me look brilliant. And people would go, "Yeah, this guy has credibility. Listen to that." And it was like so fucking stupid. So I talked to, again, stories we've told on this show before. Haley Kellett, my work, I did improv workshops. And she said, when that happens, just breathe. So you would ask the question and I would just breathe. And it would just take a second or two. Like you wouldn't even detect it. No one listening would hear it. But what that would allow me to do was just get present to my body and come. And and some kind of answer would bubble up. And as
Of
I said,
course.
sometimes it could be brilliant. Most times it was just good enough.
Yeah.
Just and that's all we're seeking. So it didn't come from a thing. Oh, gotta trust myself right now. Have to accept whatever happens. No, it's just connecting with my body, which is always in the present moment, and just allowing something to happen. And that's just an easier way to be than thinking our way through frickin' everything.
And as a final thought today, excuse me, as a final thought, you know, Hogan, Tiger, all good golfers, you hear them talk about this concept of, you know, I expect, Nick Price famously said this, that in any given round of golf, you know, depending on your level, you expect, you know, you can expect a number of poor shots. And the idea is pros would say that, you know, Hogan again said, I expect to hit 7 or 8. Bobby Jones may have said it. Bad shots around, or less than, you know, less than the optimal outcome shots around. And I've known that my whole golfing life. But I've also thought of this recently as I've been having these, like, they're not all great rounds of scoring, although 69 was
course
cool.
not.
But I've been having this sort of new way of feeling about my golf swing. I would also say to the people listening, you can also expect some number of good shots around. We all do them. They said sometimes when we're playing poorly, we forget that there's also the other side of it. And back to Scotty Scheffler, one of the greatest things he said, I think it was at the PGA, where the front nine of his 4th round, he was pull hooking everything. And he told the story about Randy Smith, you know, or told the story about Ted, his caddy, saying, well, just aim a little bit further to the right. But one of the things that he said that went sort of less noticed was he also said, I just figured that eventually I would stop hitting it left, because he knows he can't hit it left all day. He knows some good shots are coming. And sure enough, you know, that's my point, the theme about trusting your swing or trusting your game. Trust in the fact that, yes, you're going to hit some bad shots today. You're absolutely going to hit some shots that are not what you wanted. But remember, there's also some good shots there.
That's right.
If you
that's right.
just remember that we all hit good shots in every round. I don't know what your expectations are, but I think all of us can expect some. You know,
I think it was exactly. Well, I think it was Mike Alderman, who you know, and a great player. He won
I
the
played
Club
with
C.
him in a tournament recently.
Yeah,
Love Mike.
yeah, he won the Club C a bunch of times at Blue Springs, so a really good player. And I remember a couple times that we played, and he'd go, "Oh, well, there's today's double bogey.
Yeah, exactly.
It just happens, and there it is. Yeah, it showed up. It was bound to show up eventually, and so now that's done, I'll let it go." Yeah, you know what? Just to close, as we start to close, that's why the very first practice in my book, Getting Unstuck, 7
I'm sorry,
transformational
you have a book?
practices.
It's called what?
7 transformational practices to never overcooking your steak, because that's not a venial sin, that's a mortal sin. That's why I start with meditation as the first practice, because it's around awareness. It's not about sitting on a cushion and blissing out. It's about, what am I paying attention to right now? And if that's not what I think is going to serve me where I need to be, well, then I just change it. That's all that meditation really is.
Well, this has been great. Thank you all for listening. Of course, this program brought to you not by that golf company. Tim O'Connor's book is actually called Getting Unstuck, 7 Transformational Sins for Golf Nerds.
Yeah, the actual title. Yeah,
I have it. It's here. Anytime I want it, it's right here. I'm working on a book. It's called From Golf Hell to GSL. Yeah. Snappy title.
You need a ghostwriter?
Say again? No.
Need a ghostwriter?
I think I can. You know what? I do need an editor, though. So
I know a good one.
I'll hit you up for that.
Yeah.
Listen, everybody, enjoy your golf. I was going to get to some emails today, but we're going to save that till next time. Canadian Open's on this week.
Yeah.
It's at a great golf course. I played a tournament there last fall. I played it a bunch of times. The problem with it is it's just hard to get to. It's out of the way, and it's there's only a couple roads leading in another. I hope it's successful, but it's going to be
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do traffic wise. around TPC Toronto.
Yeah, it's gonna be a nightmare, is what it's gonna be. But looking forward to it. And then the U.S. Open next week.
Yeah. Oof.
My
It'll
kids
be
always
interesting
say,
to see how Rory shows up. He
Yeah,
says
my
he's
kid-
playing with house money now.
My kids always say, Daddy, what do you want for Father's Day? I said, well, I want brunch and then to be left alone so I can watch the last.
That's it. So I
The
can
last
bolt myself
round.
to the couch.
All right, Tim O'Connor, you're a very nice man. Thanks, everyone. This program produced by the Humble and Fred Show. O'ConnorGolf.ca, HumbleandFredRadio.com. We'll see you next time.
A band is blowing Dixie, double fall time.